Konnichiwa, Mina-san. Today, we are doing, I guess, a special episode, but it's going to be a little different type of episode. We are completing our N64. I'm sorry, Connor, but it's the N64 Rare Trilogy because one game got skipped, even though Rare made a couple games, more games on N64, but platformers specifically, we did skip one because only one of us played it and the other ones didn't even try. So,
Yes, correct.
Because one of
sorry.
I was among them.
I got 100% in it years ago. Connor was just a coward.
Hey, I beat it when I was 7.
Well, but anyway, for the club, I was the only person who tried it, and I stopped at Gruntilda Industries. So, Banjo Tooie, sorry, but you're not getting an episode. So instead, we are finishing up with Conker's Bad Fur Day. And as you already heard, I have my two esteemed co-hosts with me, Parrot.
Hello.
And Connor.
Hi.
And then for this episode, we had to invite a very special guest because he really loves this game, pretty much more than anyone I know. And I'm pretty sure more than any of us on this podcast.
Sole reason I'm even playing it.
But we're pretty much going to let him be our guide this time, which is something we've never really done. But everyone, welcome Conker's Bad Fur Day #1 fan, Addi.
Hi, hello. Yeah, if you're excited to listen to this today, and you are listening to this, you can probably thank me because my passion and love for this game, I don't know if you guys would have done without it, and I really appreciate this because getting a chance to talk about this game is awesome because I adore this game so much. It's one of my favorites, and I'm very excited to have a discussion about this insanely unique game today.
And yeah, so none of us have actually, usually we start with history of the game, but Addi is the only person with history because I'm pretty sure none of us had played this game before now. So take it away.
Yeah, so this is one of my earliest. I mean, here's the thing. I remember going to Rogers Video, which in Canada we had Blockbuster, but I actually didn't have a Blockbuster near me, so we had Rogers Video. And I remember going there and renting games basically every weekend for my 64. You know, my mom would always let me pick out one. And I picked out Conker. And I was on really good terms with most of the people at Rogers Video because I was always there. So they knew who it was and they just let me rent whatever I wanted. Of course, this game was rated mature though. And there was a new person there that day. And I still remember he was like, "Nah, this game's mature, man. Like I can't let you get it." I was kind of like, "Do you know who I am though? Do you know who I am?" So he ended up, one of the guys he was working with was like, nah, he's cool. Like his mom's in here all the time. She won't give a shit. Like, just rent it to him. So I ended up, it was great. So I ended up taking it home and I banged it out. And yeah, there was nothing like that game. It was so unique. And I had played basically most of Rare's big hits on 64 up to that point. Obviously GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and all their other games that they had released. And I loved them, but this was something different. This was crass. This was dirty. It was just, it was something so unique. And I fell in love with it. And it's kind of a love that's carried over to this day where I've always just been, kind of spite listing Xbox in general just because they won't do anything with this property, which I'm sure we'll get into probably how difficult it would be to do anything with this property today.
Probably
but
massively difficult.
Massively difficult for sure. But it still doesn't make me less angry.
Yeah, I was surprised when I started playing it. I had knew how like some of the jokes and stuff already, but I was like, wow, they could definitely not get away with this if they would come out with this today. But I bet you if they put in enough work, they could come up with something that would be accepted.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like, and again, we'll kind of talk about it as we go, I'm sure, but there's so many movie parodies in this game that's like a huge staple of it. And I feel like, even if they just stuck with that and just toned down some of the stuff that wouldn't fly today, let's say, I think you could create a great game. But yeah, as Straw Hat basically said, because I'm the only one with history, I'll kind of guide us a little bit along here. And I guess the next best place to go is just kind of get your guys' overall impressions, and then we can kind of start breaking it down area by area. So, Straw Hat, Parrot, and Connor, whichever one you want to go first, and talk about what you thought about the game overall, your first time playing it today, from a game that's this old. What did you think?
I'll go first, I guess. So I went into this game I did know some stuff. One of my roommates in college played this, so I watched him play like a large chunk of this at the time, but I never played it myself. And I just kind of knew going into it that the humor was not going to be for me. I think like if I had played this, 15, 20 years ago, I probably would have found it more funny. But my humor's like what I find funny has definitely changed over the years. So I knew going in that that was not going to be the appeal to me. And that turned out to be very true for a very, very large portion of this game. Like the first half of it, I talked to you guys about it as we were playing, and I just was kind of slogging through it because the gameplay itself is decent to me. I think it's kind of fun, like wandering around the areas, like and collecting everything in that way. But like he doesn't play particularly smooth, in my opinion, compared to like Banjo or even Donkey Kong. And then like just the first half just had so many parts that I was just like rolling my eyes at. But then as we'll talk about the game, but the second half of the game I feel like is where I finally got to be like more involved, more interested in it, because I felt like the locations got a little more creative, and then some of like the more parody stuff was hitting for me more. So by the end, I enjoyed the game, and I felt like the back 2/3 was enough to make it. So I liked the game overall, even though I kind of genuinely hated the first few hours.
That's kind of funny how I also was in the camp of expecting to hate this game because I'm not a fan of toilet humor, and that much hasn't changed. But ironically, I ended up liking the first third to first half of the game more than like the latter half. I just that initial sequence, especially when he's waking up with a hangover and you're talking to Birdie and doing all that stuff just made me giggle so much. But then you get to like the Mountain of Pooh, and yeah, that's that went exactly about as you expect with me.
Yep.
But it was a funny experience of just like giggling and having a good little time with whatever random mechanic they'd have, and then not even 5 minutes later they'd have me screaming in frustration over something which, as I've come to find out, was a large part due to emulating it. So that was a mistake on my part, or just some gross joke that just completely tuned me out. So it's just back and forth roller coaster experience for me for most of the game.
Yeah, so for me, I think or Addy, I think you especially thought I might hate this game more than anybody, but I might have
Yeah,
ended up
I did.
I
After
might have
his
ended up
Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, I don't know what to expect anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was a monster in that, but yeah, I ended up actually liking it. I think more so than Connor and Parrot. I don't know what. I think I gave it like a 3.5, but I definitely was more in Parrot's camp though. Like I didn't like the beginning as much. I was trying to go in with an open mind, and I was like, yeah, a lot of these jokes are just like wrong or not good for today. But I also respect that they went like this way back then and did what they did, because like we talked about, they couldn't do exactly like this today. And I will say, like, there was really only one part in the game where I'm like, I almost dropped the game, which we'll talk about at some point, because I was just really disgusted by it. But I will say the biggest surprise for me is how good the boss fights were in this game. I think that was, which Rare has struggled in some games with boss fights, but I feel like they really nailed it with at least a few, maybe most of them were really well done. The one thing I got to complain about, though, that I've never really had this in any other game, is how bad the fall damage is and how
Oh my
weird it
god.
is.
Yes.
Like, I feel like you barely jump and you fall and take damage. It's like, what is happening?
Okay, I guess that wasn't an emulator issue I was having there, but
Well,
No, the depth perception is definitely a little bit off in this
it's
game.
so off. There's that one part where you're swimming past a bunch of blades, and I literally could not tell how
Yep.
close I was to them, no matter what.
Speaking of
Fascinating, actually.
speaking of swimming, though, I love Conker's like health bar for underwater. Like he just like
Yes.
his eyes start to get really red and the bubbles
That
start to
was a good
really
one.
his cheeks. That's genius how they did that.
Oh, I think it's great. The only thing it's missing is that Sonic music, the panic music when you're drowning.
Oh,
Dun,
yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I just needed that to go with it, but I like his cute little face, like as he's suffocating to death, I guess.
Yeah. It kind of has that sort of early Doom kind of effect with
Yes.
the little dude gain damage in the middle of the screen. It feels like
Yeah.
that.
I've always appreciated the visual cues of just seeing, kind of what's going on with your character.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. All right. Well, so yeah, we'll kind of go, I guess, area by area now and just kind of try, touch on anything. And if I miss something you guys want to talk about in an area or just in general, just feel free to interject and let me know. But as you kind of mentioned already, Connor, the game starts up. You basically you're having a night out, have a few too many to drink, kind of go the wrong way, and you wake up and you meet Birdie or Beardy. I don't know.
Birdie.
Birdie. And you kind of get your introduction to the game, and kind of one of the most brilliant things about this game to me is the context sensitive buttons.
I was dying over that.
And they work exactly as you think. You just go over that and you get what you need in the moment. And I think right from the kind of the hop,
sensitive.
right from the hop, you notice that this is not going to be your typical Rare game, don't you think? It's very different right out of the gate.
It's right out of the gate very different from a lot of stuff in that area, that's for sure. You could just tell right off the bat that the developers were just like, eh.
Do you know anything about the history of this game too? Which, I guess to give like a brief kind of synopsis, this game was in development far before Banjo and Kazooie. Rare had been working on this game forever. And it was called Conker's. I think it was based off like Conker was obviously in Diddy Kong Racing. He was this
I
cute
believe
little
it's called
squirrel.
Conker's Quest at first, right?
Conker's
Yeah.
Quest, that's right. And the game it was having development issues. They couldn't get it going. And then Banjo and Kazooie became a thing. And Rare's like, this is so much better than what you have, guys. Like, I don't know what you want us to do. But they're like, keep working on it, right? Just, like this is our bar now. Like Banjo Kazooie's incredible, which it's a great game, obviously. And basically the one guy, Chris Sevor, he's who voices Conker and is basically became the creative director, kind of went to Rare and had this idea and was like, look, what if we just kind of scrap everything, make it this really raunchy kind of different type of game, and we'll roll with that. And to his surprise, Rare was like, sure, let's do it. And to even a bigger surprise by everyone, Nintendo was like, yeah, sure, do it. The only thing Nintendo censored about this game was a Pokemon reference, which they're like, no, you can't do that. But anything else they approved. So
I think I read there was a KKK joke that also got censored.
Oh,
That one's a little more understandable.
Might have been that too. There was a couple things, but it was very little. They had very little notes.
Maybe they were the same joke.
Yeah, they allowed them to do most everything they wanted to, which is pretty cool.
It's
So
just funny too because like the Xbox version when they re-released it, they censored more of the language compared to the N64 version, which is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, not quite on brand for what we know of that era.
Yeah, and I should mention too that we all played the original version. There is a remake, Conker's Live and Reloaded, which, by the way, visually, if you guys ever get a chance, I'm sure you guys have, but just listeners in general, look up this game if you can because it's beautiful. Like that art style still holds up very well. It's an incredibly gorgeous remake, in my opinion. The problem is, yeah, they censored it. Like a lot of the swear words are just censored. There's actually a glitch during one of the best parts of the game, the Great Mighty Pooh song, where it just skips and like it just kind of ruins some of the flow of that part. So it was not a very good remake, and definitely recommend the original version for that reason. But yeah, so you kind of have that at the start. You meet the gargoyle, you kind of bash him with a frying pan. Great weapon, by the way. One of the top tier, I think, video game weapons.
I will say too, I've at the beginning I was very confused by the lever you have to pull. They don't really explain like how to do. So like I feel like people get lost in that first area because at first I was like, what do you do?
I absolutely spent like 10 minutes in that area longer than I needed to. If you need an example of someone failing at every little thing that could possibly be failed at in this game, that was me.
Like this was just this opening spot, and the spot we're going to talk about next is where I was like already hesitant about this game because I just the humor did not land with me, but also just like the way he controls is just slightly off. Like we said before, like the depth perception is not very good. And I just feel like his jumping is very stiff, which you said that this is like a different dev team than Banjo, right? Because like
yeah,
it's funny because Banjo feels so good to play, but this, in my opinion, just like the jumping, just the simple act of jumping does not feel good. And like I like the frying pan like as an idea, but I found so many times you'd have to like chase small fast enemies and try to hit them with this thing. It'd be very annoying because you couldn't really tell where you were.
Watching Connor try to chase those cogs in the
Oh,
pipe and hit them with the frying pan was great.
that one took me a while.
Yeah, you just like, am I doing something wrong? I'm like, no, you gotta time it right. There are a lot of parts in this game, and like it definitely. I can agree. I think Banjo Kazooie is the better platformer for sure. I don't think there's any question in that in terms of how it plays, but I gotta give them credit for creativity. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention too, right out of the gate with the movie spoofs, it starts by spoofing Clockwork Orange right away. So right away you're just kind of going into going into some wild shit with the movie spoofs, and
Which
there's
one
not going to
was the
be
Clockwork Orange reference?
the
Because I
very
should
start
have
him
picked
drinking
up
the
on
milk.
that.
He's drinking the milk. He's got the crown. They're kind of doing
Oh,
that shot with him and his
right,
friends.
right. Yep, yep.
Yeah, it's the same as
Totally see it now.
yeah. So right off the bat, you're getting gray. And I mean, there's just so many. There's Blue Velvet references early on. There's Full Metal Jacket references. It just goes on and on. The crazy amount of movie references in this game. I'm
Yes.
sure some will touch on.
They
But
varied in
yes,
quality, but overall,
yes.
it was kind of impressive how many they stuffed in.
Yeah, no, they don't all hit, but the ones that do, they're pretty good. But yeah, so you kind of get out of that area and then you kind of get into your hub world, which this area is kind of cool because you don't have to follow it in a particular way at first. So you can kind of do what you want to do and go back and kind of mix and match. Basically, your goal in the game though is you need money. You're collecting money and trying to get home. So the game does get a little bit frustrating because obviously it's old. There's no checklist or anything. So if you miss money, which I'm sure I know you did, Connor, it
Everything
becomes
I
kind of a
could get
bitch.
wrong, I did.
Yeah, so it becomes kind of a pain to backtrack and see where to go. But right away, you're introduced to some great characters. Right out the gate, you're introduced to the Mrs. B, who's lost her poor beehive, and she's just crying her eyes out, and you got to go get her beehive back. I think she's the first character you encounter when you get out there.
Other than the gargoyle, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Unless you
So
ignored her completely like me and just went and found the hive and picked it up without any explanation and just was like, all right, I have this now.
that's great. I didn't even know you could do that. That's awesome. But yeah, you have her, and then you. I think next, most people just kind of tend to stumble their way into the barn, and you meet one of my characters, Frankie, the pitchfork, who I think is
Oh,
just
God.
incredible.
That was like the top of the line of jokes that I think you could not do today, but I was just laughing.
Oh yeah,
Oh, when
I
he tried to
thought that
kill
was
himself.
funny too. Yeah.
Yes.
You dumbass! You have no neck. You can't hang yourself.
Yeah. Paintbrush and paint bucket too are just always like.
These guys are so bad.
But
Yeah,
then
no, they would. You couldn't get away with that today.
Yeah. I did like how you use him then to fight the haystacks, and then that eventually the giant haystack.
Yes.
That's the first kind of boss in the game. Is I don't know if I forget his name, but yeah, the robot. Well, you think he's a
Yes.
haystack at first, and he's a robot, and then you kind of go into that underwater area with him and have to do battle with him. Which it's interesting going back to this game and watching some of you guys play it. It's very you don't really know what to do at first a lot of the time, so you do have
No,
to kind of do
yeah.
some trial and error, don't you think?
Yeah, this one
Yes.
I definitely was very confused what to do at first. I'm just like, and plus you're on top of the pitchfork too, so you can't really do too much.
It was like, even compared to Banjo Kazooie, I feel like Banjo Kazooie gave you a brief explanation anytime they added a new mechanic or put you in a new situation. And then this game was just like, you've been playing our games, other N64 games, for like 3 or 4 years, haven't you? Well, you better figure it out because we're not telling you jack crap about what's going on here.
The pitchfork fart, it kind of brings me like something I do like about this game is I do like that it changes up the gameplay a lot.
Yes, I
I
do
like that
love
it does.
that.
It does. It like
Actually,
does. You're always doing random different things, and so this is the N64, so I try to excuse some of it because like some of it controls absolutely horribly and it's really bad. But I do like that they tried to do different things. Pitchfork fart is one that I thought was like overall like a more fun sequence than some of the stuff they try
Yeah.
later. But
yeah, and you would, when I was streaming it, it was very common to see me like spit and rage over not having any idea what's going on. But I actually honestly enjoy that experience to some extent, especially if there's a what do they call it, save state system that lets me speed
Yeah.
up some of the more frustrating aspects of that era.
I will say too, as much as I did like the boss fight and I thought it was really well done, I hated the next part where you had the knives and you had to try to hit the wires because I was like freaking out because the water gets higher and I'm just like I don't know what I didn't really figure out what you were supposed to do at first. So I think that was the first place I actually died.
I think I was kind of the opposite, where I just found that boss fight, and like once you actually were down in the area, I found it incredibly boring because all you did was stand behind a pillar for like an hour. And then I had to deal with slippery soap aiming controls.
Oh my god, yes.
So if I pressed it a little bit, it went snail slow. And then if I tried to press a medium amount, it went really fast. And if I tried to do full tilt, it just rocketed off in any direction.
Yeah,
And
that wasn't an emulator issue as far as I know. That's just how I control.
really, okay, I
Yeah.
think it was slightly worse from the emulator as well. Because that's like literally just, I don't know how any of you guys could have done that next part if you had it as sensitive as mine was.
Well, and
But
I
I
got to give
still
Connor.
managed to hit like 4 of them on my first go.
No, I was gonna say I got to give you credit. I think it only took you 2 shots. Like I think you died once, and you're like, okay, and then you figured it out. You did it the second time, so that was like
Yeah.
really impressive. Like you two shotted that part because it can be a bit of a bitch. Funny enough, I don't really have a huge issue with the aiming, but I think I'm also really used to it because I've played this game like 5 times, so I just kind of know it's a little bit more finicky. I wouldn't be surprised if it's worse on emulation, though. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, there's a certain bar of terribleness that I expect from every Nintendo 64 aiming controls, but this was another level for me. This was just like, I don't think anyone would have been able to beat the game other than your cracked out, monkey headed FPS crowd.
For sure. But then you get your way out of there. You basically climb up, and then you meet King Bee. And then, does she have a name, or is she just giant chested sunflower girl? I think she's just giant chested sunflower girl.
Yeah, I don't
Right?
think she has a name.
Yeah. All right. So you meet them. Basically, he wants to pollinate her. You help him with that, and you get some money.
Yeah.
Great part of the game. Great part of the game.
Obviously.
Top three waifu in the game for me. The giant chested sunflower. I wouldn't put her at the top, but definitely up there.
I was surprised you had to find like 5 sets of bees. So I'm just like, how many more do I have to find? Because one is like off the map. I feel like too. Like you have to jump where the cheese,
Yes.
like the cheese herds are, and there is like in the back of the map. I'm just like, how did
Well,
this get back here?
that's one of the first ones I found. The one that got me was literally at the entrance of the farm, but it's slightly higher than the camera goes normally. So you have to just run into the wall and it won't show until you're already like halfway up the slope.
Yeah. I had a glitch where I had gotten some of the bees and then I went to go get the one at the very top and it like glitched out and I had to go back down and talk to the person again to then be allowed to get the bees and then I had to get all of them again. Because like getting the one at the top isn't necessarily hard. It's just tedious because you move so slow. And if you even step, like we said before, if you drop even 2 feet to try to save yourself some time, you're dead. So,
Yes. And Lord forbid you die at that part because in my experience, most of them reset.
yep. That's why I just abuse the save states like hell in this game.
Yep.
So yeah, you do that, you get some more cash, and then again, I think you can kind of do a couple of different things, and yeah, but most people funnel their way over to kind of the poo area now. When you get the kind of remix soundtrack with the fart sounds, I don't know, I'm childish, but that always makes me laugh. But you get that going on. You need to get basically you need to kind of unclog things so you can start getting poo balls and use them to kind of get your way into things. And you get Straw Hat's favorite part of the game, where you meet a lovely bull and some cows, right?
Ugh. Yeah, this part I was just very grossed out by this one because not only do you have to get these poor innocent cows out here to eat some prunes and then just have tons of diarrhea right into the middle, then you have the bull just brutally murder the cows for no reason, and you do
Yes.
this 3 times. So yeah, this was the part
3
of the game where
long times.
I'm just like, I almost was like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing this. This is disgusting. But it got better from there. So be thankful, Addy, I got through that part for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
That was
I'm in
also
a
my least favorite part of the game, gotta be honest. I hated that part.
I'm in
The whole
agreement
poo
where that
section.
somehow was
Yeah.
even worse than the Great Mighty Pooh.
Yeah, the poop sound, like just the constant like farting and all that while I was trying to get up there. I'm just like, this is driving me crazy. Like this needs to stop.
Yeah, and the fight was just worse. It's funny because we'll get there, but like the Great Mighty Pooh is actually the part where I thought the game got better because I didn't hate the Great Mighty Pooh part because I think it was more clever. I think for me, it's just this stuff where it's like the joke is that there's farts and poop is just not funny to me.
Surprisingly, I think you're right.
See, just you saying farts and poops makes me laugh. So definitely my demographic.
There's certain kinds of people. I like one of my cousins, his family, that was just like, that would be completely A-okay with them. But I do
So
think we need to rewind just a little bit to your
sure.
way up the mountain, and that the batch of dung beetles that wants to beat you
right.
up on
Yes.
the way. You slingshot them. That part made me giggle. They're just like sitting there dogging like a bunch of goons. They're just like, oh, then we're gonna beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Just wait for him to come to us. Wait for him to come to us. We'll get him.
Yes, I just love those guys. Favorite part of the game, probably.
Yeah, then you just slingshot them and they just fucking splatter everywhere.
That was like even like back in the barnyard when you have to feed that mouse the cheese and then he just like blows up himself. I'm just like, this is gross.
That was just like, what?
Yeah, I forgot about that part, but yeah, that's really early on. That's like one of the first things you do, and because you got the blocks too, and the giant woman block is just it's crushing the poor man block underneath them.
That
Get this bitch off of my back.
That whole little sequence right there, and then the fact that you had to go through that whole rigmarole to collect those pieces of cheese. That was the first time where the game made me just like stop for 5 minutes and go,
yeah, but
what am I doing?
Yeah, between the whole, I didn't really like the barnyard, like even climbing up the pool, like it was so, or the giant ladder to the little. It was very tedious and easy to die. And then then the giant poop pile cabin. I'm just like, I don't know about this game, but that was pretty much the last part where I didn't really like it. After that, I was pretty fine with everything. So
yeah, as I think Connor said earlier, one of the game's strengths is just kind of mixing up how the gameplay keeps you fresh throughout the game. Basically, you're never kind of doing the same thing. So
yes,
I do
never
appreciate
have to
that
suffer
part of it.
the same things for very long.
Yeah, exactly. If there's something you don't like, well, there might be something you hate worse a few seconds away. Don't worry. Yeah, you get your giant balls of poo. You open up some more areas, and you end up meeting the catfishes. And they've got some money. They've got some money, but they need you to help because there's this big brute that's basically been harassing them. So you go further down and you meet this cog. I don't know if he has a name, but he's got the split personality for sure. And he just wants his cogs back. He's like the big cog, and he's got these little cogs. There's weird sexual innuendos with all this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I watched Connor play this part. It was funny. Yeah,
there's a lot
Connor
of things going on. I was giggling.
Yeah, but Connor trying to chase down these cogs is prime entertainment. Prime entertainment.
Yeah, that part was
so out of it.
annoying because you had to like redo the same thing 3 times. Like you think it's not like a quick process either. It just felt so tedious. But I did like the catfish and the dog part.
Those were funny. I especially love the little story, or like the little gag that goes on with the cats and the Grim Reaper who you meet.
oh yeah,
we didn't talk about him, but yeah, when you die for the first time, you end up meeting Greg, and he's he's very excited. He's like, oh, you're a squirrel, bloody hell, because squirrels gets as many lives as they think they can get away with. So
just like cats.
Yeah, I bloody hate those things, and of course he has a beef with cats. Fun fact: there was they plotted out a sequel to Conker's Bad Fur Day. I forget the exact name of it, but it ended up getting canceled because Phil Spencer's a jerk. But it one of the big players of it was Greg, and he basically is just annoyed with Conker and wants him to finally die, and he works with the Panther King in Hell to take him down. It was a cool little plot line, but. Unfortunately, never came to fruition. There's a really long video that has like the entire thing was plotted out. Basically, the creator, he's very active on Twitter, and he tweeted out all like the plot, the early concept, and where it was going to go. And some of the stuff was pretty wild, but it was an interesting idea nonetheless. So sad that it never got made. But yeah,
the little moment where you find the catfishes again after they get destroyed by the dog fish. And they're just all pestering Greg over on her graveyard with their extra lives.
I don't remember that part. I must have missed that for some reason. Which part? How do you get to that part?
So it's on your way into the graveyard later on.
Oh, Yeah, I must have
They're
either
just
I was
standing there.
zoned out or missed it somehow. Oh
Yeah,
no,
we'll
I
get
think I
there.
do remember it. Yeah, I remember now that you say that. Yep, never mind.
So yeah, you get that really cool Jaws moment as you guys alluded to. So actually, first you get in the safe. There's $10,
Oh
and they
yeah.
want you to have $1. You kind of get into an argument with them. End up taking the whole $10 though. Cat, the big brute, kind of gets free. Turns into a Jaws situation. They all die, although they're cats, so they come back. And that's kind of that area done.
Is the
We
vault
did miss.
is that also where you go into the vault and fight like those little fiery like demon
Yes.
guys?
Yes, just
Oh,
getting to that. And then that you get to the little. This is the first time that you learn the mechanic on how to get drunk, and
okay.
piss. And you fight this. I don't know what you would call him. A giant like furnace, I
Boiler.
guess.
Yeah,
Boiler. Okay,
boiler.
there you go. With really, really large brass balls. Literally.
Yeah.
Now, see, I was laughing at this part. Addy, you thought I would hate this part, but I
Yeah,
thought this part was
I
pretty
I, I,
funny.
I thought this one part would bother you, but yeah, no. What you liked it? You were a fan of it?
Yeah, I
Look,
thought it was funny with trying to aim it. At first, I was confused when you ran out. You have to like go back and refill, but I thought that was pretty funny with how you kill them all by just like peeing on all of them, and then the boss fight I really liked where you have to like dunk it with oil, and you run up with the bricks and just slam it. I'm just like, oh, that was funny.
see, to me, that one's really funny because of all the people I've seen with truck nuts. So it's basically like you
Yeah.
fighting truck nuts, people. It's just like it's just what you've wanted to do.
Parrot, you were mentioning the boss fights. Did you like this one?
This one is like okay. Like I didn't find it offensive or anything. I didn't like particularly think it was like hilarious or anything, but I enjoyed the idea of it. I just think the controls when you're trying to pee are so frustrating that kind of
They're
sours
not
it for me
great.
a little bit.
Well, there's the.
It's like the idea.
Did you know about the button that extends your piss?
No, because I didn't know that, and it
Okay.
doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah,
So that
no,
did not help.
yeah, no. I definitely told. I was in Connor's stream. I was like, just so you know, there's a button that extends your piss that's going to save your life here and make things a lot easier for you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that would have definitely helped. And it's just like us, just I like the really slow drunken. It's one of those things that I think it's like a funny idea and it's cool and clever, but it's also like not necessarily the most fun to play. So I think they didn't,
Yes.
to me, didn't quite straddle that line close enough. But I like the
I
idea.
laughed. I laughed at the mechanic the first time when you had to go get some Alka-Seltzer to get rid of your hangover before you could go again.
Yeah,
And then I proceeded to abuse save states
to
from
avoid
then
that.
on to never
Yes.
have to deal.
Oh,
Yeah,
you just
that's like the
walk
most
so
annoying part.
slow. Yeah, you
Yeah,
walk so
it's
slow.
it's like less the P part because like part of it's on me, I guess, for not knowing you could do that. You could extend it, but it's like when you run out, the fact that you have to then go to this machine to cure yourself and then go drink again, and it's just kind of a little much.
I will say it is very realistic because you're literally doing the walk of shame. You've drank too much.
Yes.
Walk of shame. Like it's very
Yes.
realistic in that regard, but not fun. But yeah, so after that, then it just becomes, one of my favorite parts of the game, and obviously a moment that's entrenched in history, I think, for boss fights. You meet the great mighty Pooh himself, and he's going to throw his shit at you. He just this fight is just, if you don't know what to expect going in here, and this is just the point where it's just like, what is this game? Like, I don't know what I would love to hear your guys' impressions. I'm sure you were all spoiled on this fight a while
absolutely.
beforehand, but what did you think?
This is the part, like I said, that I feel like the game turned around for me because I was not really having a great time leading up to this, but I just think this idea is really funny. And just like having the whole mechanic of the boss be based around the opera singing too. Like it's not just a random cutscene joke. You have to like wait for him to sing to like throw the toilet paper in his mouth. I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I even really like the lead up to it, like with the poor corn pieces that keep getting thrown in. You actually have to help throw them in at first. It's like, what is if you, like you said, I did know what it was, but I'm like, what would be this monster coming out of here if you didn't know?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like every outlet 10, 15 years ago had to mention this at some point. So there's no way it wasn't getting spoiled for anyone who's been a long time player. Everything I was seeing and everything I was hearing, I absolutely hated. But somehow the fact that they made it this whole soprano thing, or not like the Sopranos, but this whole opera thing just made it somehow enjoyable.
Yeah, I think for me, like humor wise, it's like I just don't think poop jokes, fart jokes are funny if that's the punchline. But if you're like going an extra level and making it a little more creative and out there, like the opera, then like okay, I'm good with it. So that's why I really like this part still. Even though this is the part where I had my emulation issue, I had to like toggle a setting or because like it was something to do with the frame rate. And it was just like the
Yeah.
frame rate is too fast or something like on an emulator
So he
normally.
kept
So like
disappearing.
he just never opened his mouth.
Ah,
So I couldn't throw the toilet paper in, so I couldn't beat him. So I had to like fix that, but that didn't ruin it for me. It was still a really clever part.
The song itself is very good too, but I also love like when you're kind of at that final part and the violin starts to kick in. It's just a very good song, and definitely one that's enjoyable. So really fun
Yeah,
boss fight. Straw, you were a fan too, I take it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was really looking forward to the fight. I didn't really know anything about the fight. I just knew about the characters and the opera, so I was looking forward to it. And yeah, I enjoyed the fight, having to time it. And I really wasn't sure what to do after you were done, though. I'm like, do you jump down the hole? But I'm like, I'm always afraid to jump everywhere because you die so easily. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's the one exception is when there's poo, you just kind of your head gets stuck in the ground and you wriggle around, which you kind of can learn earlier. But if you don't, then yeah, there's no way for you to
Except
know.
except in that arena where if you jump onto certain parts of the ground there, you get drowned and die. So you
Yeah,
have to like very precisely go onto one of those first like rocks that is in the hole. And then I just had so much trouble getting through there.
yeah. Anything else about the Mighty Pooh guys? I guess that's good, right? We covered him. So you,
Pretty
you
much.
defeat him. You shove the toilet paper in his mouth. You flush him. My cleanliness, he's gone. And then you end up in the caveman area with a lot of fun stuff here. Really good song again. I like the soundtrack for this game, but you get the yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, it started turning into like a '90s what was it, like a Nickelodeon special.
Yeah, well, and Conker makes a joke. He's like, because at first when you get down there, it's just really, I don't know, like this tense kind of scary music. He's like, can we get something a little bit more upbeat, guys? Kind of
Yes.
get this, you get this banger. But yeah, so a lot of stuff, different stuff happens here. You basically have to sacrifice this poor raptor, which I thought Parrot was going to cry at, but I don't know if it bugged you as much as as I thought it would.
Oh, I was sad for them. I was very sad.
I
Yeah,
thought
it's like
Terrible.
I felt like it was a parody of like all the times you have to kill Yoshi. It's just like now you're gonna kill this raptor.
well, that's why I'm
and
like,
heal it.
I felt
Fair
like, did he
enough.
have like an Italian like sound? Was he supposed to sound like Mario and Luigi? Because I kept hearing like that noise in the background. I'm like, is this supposed to be Mario and Luigi? Because it kind of they had like an Italian actor or voice, I thought, but I wasn't sure if that was the joke or not.
I'm now also convinced it was somewhat referencing the Super Mario movie from back then.
That's a good point.
It does have a little bit of that feel to it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
It's probably a bit
It
of a
was very
stretch.
sad.
I did like
Yes.
feeding the cavemen to him though. That was funny.
Yes. Yeah, you're just running around biting cavemen. It's good stuff. And then probably actually one of my least favorite parts of the game. I don't know if I've talked with any of you guys about this or heard your thoughts, but the nightclub with the rocks. I'm not a big fan of that part. I find it so finicky to try to shove those rocks down the different holes while you're peeing, and
Oh,
the whole thing's just annoying as hell.
yep,
Nice
that
music, but
was
again, so annoying.
yeah. Music was a bop. That was literally broken for me. I even if with the extended piss, I had to go find like a lag fix or FPS fix, like hex code injection, and then get that before it would actually work for me.
Oh, wow, I didn't. I did have trouble with it. It took me a few tries. I didn't have to go to that extreme, but overall, I actually did really like the whole area. Other than trying to aim the caveman into the hole, especially the last time you had to do it, I was just like, "This is a nightmare."
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience. It was kind of annoying, but with save states, I was able to get through it. It's just, but it was like, it's just like I said, the P controls are horrible, but I did like the idea of the setting, so it kind of, I still like
Yeah.
generally like this whole scene of the game, this whole caveman part, and like the war that happens and stuff like that.
Oh
I like
yeah.
it's like this stuff I just thought was more unique and clever because you're finally out of that initial like open world area. Didn't really talk about because that's kind of annoying too. Is like all those worlds we talked about are connected, but it doesn't really tell you how much money you need to leave. So you could very easily get into a situation where you can't progress, but you don't really know where you missed something.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Connor had something like that happen to him.
Oh yeah. I like the part where I missed the giant shark that was literally just to the right of you when you went and find the cats. But
Yeah.
it was in this perfectly fit little alcove where I missed it every time I scanned around. You just literally just jump on those sharks and there's $300 right above them.
Yeah, because it happens like
What
in a
the
cutscene. I
hell?
think it's funny because
Yeah.
when that part happened, I was like, oh, I bet there's some people that didn't grab those, and yeah, I know one.
Yep.
But yeah, so you finish all that off, and then you kind of get a bomb. You got to run the bomb. Some things blow
I
up.
did like that part.
That was fun. That was fun. And then you get a race. You get a racing scene here with you have to race against another guy to get all your money back.
Best part of
Just
the whole game.
I actually really enjoyed that part too. Yeah, I think it's great. Super fun. You end up getting
Surprisingly good controls there. It was like
Yeah.
smooth and fast.
yeah.
Diddy Kong. It was Diddy Kong Racing
Yes.
probably helped with that. So
Yeah, they probably had some of the Diddy Kong Racing team just bop on over there and give him a hand because who knows what they were doing at that point.
That's what Diddy Kong Racing feels like. Maybe I should play that game.
It's a great game. I can't recommend Diddy Kong Racing enough. It's so fun. I love the way they blend the story in there too. It's
Yep.
I wish more games did that kind of thing for racing games, or just in general with non-traditional story games like that. But then you get another boss fight. You meet Bugga, and my personal favorite woman in the game, of course, Jugga. It's a tragic love story. Yes, a very tragic love story between Conker and Jugga here, which I don't want to talk about because I might cry. So I'll let you guys handle this part.
Yeah, before you meet her, I mean, you do kind of see her in the cutscene, but I actually did really just like the arena combat. Like, you get to fight with another raptor friend. He's a little older. This one's a little older, but you get to go around and kill cavemen until you have to fight the big guy himself, which is another funny boss fight, I thought.
Okay, did the raptor randomly just decide to ignore the controls entirely for you guys and just chase after caveman on his own? Is that actually a part of it?
I thought I controlled him, if I remember right.
No, I've never really had that happen to me. I don't think.
Weird. Every once in a while, I'd be like, okay, go left. And he'd just go, no, I'm going to go right and eat this caveman. I was like,
He just
this
wants
is the
blood.
worst timing because I'm just about to get swarmed if you stop for 2 seconds here.
Yeah, I like this part. I just like the arena combat, and I like being able to ride on the dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as big of a fan of Jugga as you, I guess, but I can see why you are for sure.
I like the way that level resolved. It was just like,
yeah, it was funny.
It cannot be. You have to go now. Bye bye. Love long time. What?
Oh, my heart's breaking right now. It's so tragic.
It was hilarious how they just kind of like had that in.
Conker just wants to spend the rest of his life with Jugga.
I don't blame him, but I will say too that it actually kind of reminded me a bit of, like, I love the Ratchet and Clank games and I love the arena combat in those games, and it reminded me a bit of that for some reason. I'm sure it really wasn't related, but
I did like when it worked out and you perfectly pinballed 5 of the cavemen off the side of the arena at the same time. That was
one thing we haven't mentioned yet. Conker does have a girlfriend. Her name is Barry. And Barry's kind of interstitched throughout this entire story. You see kind of scenes with her, whether she's working out, and she ends up getting into some trouble with the mob, and specifically Don Weezo, who's clearly supposed to be Don Corleone from The Godfather. And he ends up basically, you also find her at the nightclub, end up freeing her, but because you're wearing this little caveman hat, she doesn't recognize you because you look totally different, of course.
Yeah.
So once you kill Bugga, you kind of, and unfortunately Jugga breaks your heart, you kind of go on your merry way. At this point, you should hopefully have enough money and be able to give it to a barrel that's just kind of sitting up at the top of the windmill. And then you can ride the barrel, and you ride him basically straight to hell. And you end up in what I like to call Horrorsville. You end up meeting some zombies. You kind of go through Dracula. What did you guys think of this entire part?
This part
brief
was great.
aside. I did, of course, not have enough money on this one either when I reached the checkpoint.
That's funny. I had that issue in the first section, but I don't even know how you missed money in the caveman section. I'm not even sure how you did that.
It was the cats.
Oh, you had to
three
go
above the shark. That whole $300 that you missed there.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's like the horror section I thought was really fun. I mean, as you'd imagine, I'm a big horror guy, so this part was really cool to me. Like, N64 controls aside, like fighting the zombies is a cool idea. It controls horrible, but it was a cool idea, and then I like playing as the bat. That's pretty cool. And
yeah, you got to cheese that zombie part because if you jump on a gravestone, they can't get you, and then you can just cheese them all night. But
Yeah, I
that
didn't
makes
know
sense.
that.
Yeah, that part was like a little frustrating and control wise, but I tried to like for the most part separate the controls because I just know that that's how it is. Playing an N64 game.
I think it was almost intentionally like more convoluted than normal for that one as like some sort of reference to Resident Evil. That's my
True.
that's like my internal theory there because like I am hitting 4 buttons to aim at this thing's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated the zombie part just because of the shoot. I didn't really like the shooting in general, which we'll talk. I mean, in some parts it was fine, like we'll talk about in a later section. But yeah, the zombie part, I had trouble. Like they would come for you so fast, and you could barely like aim it quick enough because you almost had to get a headshot, or it wasn't even worth it.
Yep.
And then, but I did love the Dracula part. I love being the bat and getting the poor innocent villagers and dropping them in the
that was
machine.
That was funny.
And then what happens
sorry,
after
go ahead.
you're the bat, and then there's another part after we have to wander around the manor, right?
You have to like
Yeah,
get
you
the
basically
keys.
Yeah,
you
that
get the
part's a little
keys.
annoying, but
Yeah, that
not
one's a
too
little bit
bad.
more tedious.
I just think this game is just full of it shows its age in its way that I like how it mixes up the gameplay, but it definitely has sections where they just go on slightly too long. Like they're just a little tedious. Like there's so many parts of this game where it's like, well, if you just cut like 5 minutes of this, it would have been like perfect. But they just at the time, it's probably more about let's make this game longer, so it's a little tedious and bloated at times.
Like particularly the key section when you're getting one of the ones up in the rafters. And there's those bats that are just hanging around.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
if you didn't notice, and you can't drop the keys once you have them, as I also discovered, or at least I couldn't find the button for it, and there's not only so many, is that you had to go kill all those bats with the little crossbow context sensitive spots before you ever picked up that last key up there. Otherwise, you're in for pain because you have to go do something to drop the key and then go all the way to those spots and then kill them. They go all the way back up to the rafters and then grab the key and then run all the way back to the door. It's just like, oh, almost a good section, but why?
This part is also one of the ones that I mean, it's really not that different, but I would say it differs the most from the remake to the original. In the remake, you actually don a Van Helsing outfit. So you get like a little crossbow and you become Van Helsing. And there's a little town as well before you hit the graveyard. So there's a couple little differences in this version, but nothing too major. But yeah, it's one of the shorter areas in the game. And after you finish that, you get basically the longest area of the entire game, and you head off to war. The war area finally opens back up. You kind of get this cool little black and white montage, which funny enough, I was playing on this on my Xbox, of course, with the Rare Replay collection. And I got a funny glitch, my only glitch in the entire game, where after that black and white section, the basically the dialogue was bugged. It just stopped working and it kind of stayed in like a black and white state. So that was interesting. But yeah, you kind of get this area where you kind of first you have to kind of like the part before the war stuff I don't really like, but you kind of got to power up this I forget what you're doing exactly. I think you're just basically blowing a hole in the wall or something like that so you can get out.
Yeah, it's like you drop the airplane, which I kind of like. You have to trick these two guys into taking the bomb after they come out of the bathroom, and they're like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just don't worry about it."
Yeah, that part's a little tedious for me, just kind of leading them around, but maybe I'm just bad at it.
Yeah, it was borderline for me because it was just like, okay, this could be shorter and faster, but at the same time, it was like funny enough what you were doing and just kind of convoluted enough that I just couldn't hate it. I was just crap. I was like screaming doing it and then laughing afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair. And then of course you get the famous Saving Private Ryan bit where you launch on the beach. You're at war with the teddies. It's the teddies versus the squirrels. And basically you do the World War II Normandy thing where you're on the beach and everyone's dying around you and you got to rush up and make it there. So I think that's a great part. Funny enough, I remember when the Xbox remake was coming out, they did a demo for it, and that was the part that was on the demo, was that whole war bit where you're just running up the beach. And yeah, just a great part.
Very on
Sticks
point
out to
for
me.
the 360 player base.
Yeah, I liked most of this section. Just the final part, like which I don't know how much we want to get into details with it, but like the final beach section, I hated. Even with
Oh my
save states,
gosh.
I just kept getting locked on, killed every time.
It was so
And
bad.
and even the
Yeah.
final like escape section, like before that, where you have to go through some of the lasers, it was hard to tell where you have to jump and go through. So I was just like, without save states, I would have been losing my mind. And even though I had them, I was losing my mind.
Like all these
So,
parts that you're talking about are like, it's funny because like I had so many issues with this game, but this war part I really had no issues with. Like I didn't even have to use the save states very much, so like I just had definitely had a different experience.
well, before we get to that, because I do think that part's worth talking about, I just want to quickly give a shout out to the boss fight with the basically the puppet.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
did
liked it
like
a lot.
that.
Which is a big Exorcist parody,
Yep. I was
partially.
about to ask if that was intended to be an
Yes,
Exorcist
absolutely
parody, 'cause it felt
intended.
like it.
But yeah, this is one of the best boss fights in the game. I think it's very creative and fun, and just it's a great fight.
I also want to shout out Rodent. You know,
Yeah,
the little pal.
Great guy.
saving Private
Yeah.
Rodent. You have to save Private Rodent, and
He's so nice and sweet. And this is the like honestly, it's funny because like Conker's normally the one that's just kind of like getting harassed by all these really annoying characters. But this is the one time where Conker's the asshole, and I was like, "Wow, Conker, I can't believe you'd be so mean to Rodent. He's done nothing bad to you."
I think Conker at this point just wants to get the fuck home, but
Pretty much.
but yeah, no, Rodent's a good dude. So yeah, shout out Rodent. But yeah, you kind of get this bit at the end, so you kill that boss. Great fight. But then she basically sets off a thing to the whole island's going to blow, and you got to escape really fast. And it is a pretty strict time limit. You only get a couple of minutes to do it. You kind of got these lasers that you kind of have to float through, and it's very again, the death perception is what's kind of off, and if you
Yeah.
can't figure that out, you're going to die a lot.
Not to
Because
mention
it's
that
frustrating.
you have like any issues with the Amy, which I seem to have, where I was just like getting locked into doing so many things, and then just get hit stun into stuff. So I, of course, at this point went and abused my emulator, which for it, in return for it already abusing me by making everything wrong, and turned on infinite health.
Yeah, there you go. Straw, you sounded like you were struggling at this part too.
Yeah, I mean, just like I had a hard time trying to, like you said, with the depth perception, trying to figure out how to get through exactly the lasers. And then, yeah, I mean, it was just a lot with that. And then you had the torch guys that would try to light you up. And then the bears, of course, would just appear randomly, like 3 of them at a time, sometimes while you're doing the lasers. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the jump scare music too when the bears appear. You kind of get that like it's kind of
yeah.
jump scary. I always like. Oh, and then there's that one part too we forgot to cover, but when you're walking around there down there getting to the boss, you kind of meet one of your squirrel comrades, and there's 2 switches on the wall, and it's like
Oh,
one of them will electrocute him and one of them will release him. He's like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, I know which one it is, and of course you always pick the one that electrocutes him.
I like that part. That's probably like my favorite like joke part.
I
It is
immediately
fun.
had to test it with save states.
Me
It's
too.
like,
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that. I'm like, oh, I'm
Yep.
gonna choose a different one.
Yeah, no, he's which funny enough, he's not actually dead, but yeah, he's still okay. Very burnt.
But honestly, yeah, like the end of the war part, it's funny because I didn't have any issues with it.
Yeah,
It's probably
I
like
didn't
my
either.
favorite. Probably it might be my favorite part of the
Ugh.
whole game. I thought it was fun, like going through the corridors, jumping over the lasers, shooting the guys, and then that like final section. I don't know. Well, I
Well,
don't know
and
what's happening to you, but it's just like you just wait for the bullets to not be firing and you run, and then I
Yeah,
don't know. I didn't have any
that's it.
issues at all.
I think the final part, people try to get into a shootout with them, and you can't do that. You just got to run, and you just wait for the
Yeah.
bullets to start. You run. You wait for the bullets to stop. You run, and it takes like a couple of tries sometimes. But I didn't have major issues with
Yeah.
that part.
I
You
just
see
feel
that last stretch, it doesn't work. It didn't work for me to just
Mhm.
run, because no matter what, the people with the rocket launchers,
Yep,
you could not
exactly.
make it across that last stretch without them firing at least 3 times at you, and it was very accurate. So it was
Mhm.
almost guaranteed that they would one shot kill you at some point. And even if you have infinite health on, I discovered if they do all 6 damage at once, which a direct hit does, kills you on the spot.
Yeah, I had the same problem as Connor. Like I just those rocket launcher bears just would perfectly kill me each time if I wasn't quick enough to get them first. Like it would be 1 or 2 shots and I was dead.
I didn't even try to shoot them at some point. I was just trying to run, but you could not. You could jump, they'd still lock on, hit you. What I ended up doing was turning off all of the FPS locks and just letting my CPU run that game way faster than it ever intended to. And they still hit me, and I could not control where I was going very well. But because things were going so fast, they could never directly hit me, so I always survived. It's just bouncing over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know. With the rocket launchers, I just juked them. I mean, I don't want to
same.
sound like I'm a god tier gamer, but yeah, no, I just
Yeah, no, it was just a thing where your certain emulators would screw you over on that one.
Yeah, I just like walked up and shot the rocket launcher people, and then I would just run to the next spot. That's how I did it.
But
Yep.
the laser part I can see being more frustrating. So that one I definitely had some issues with too. Again, I died quite a few times, so that's because it's a little wonky. I think it would have been better with
The
save
lasers
state,
are
but-
all right.
all right, so yeah, you get out of there, peace at last. You've single handedly ended the war. You get back, and the main hub area is kind of in a state of disarray now. The beehive's like dead. I think Queen Bee's actually dead out there too, if you look carefully.
Sobbing.
Or she might just be sobbing. Yeah, that might be it. And one of my favorite lines is you kind of get to the top of that windmill. You're like, man, I swore that was going to be the final level. But yeah, no, it's been basically blown to hell. But don't worry, because Dawn Weasel's got a job for you. One final job. And of course, Barry's back, donned in Matrix leather and cape. And then you get the Matrix parody here, where you're gonna do a heist. Of course, a very famous parody for the Matrix. What did you guys think of this whole part?
I love this part. This
Me
is
too.
another one of the parts that I would think were one of my favorites. I just liked it was very short and simple, but I just liked the look of the. I know I've never seen the Matrix, but I knew what it was supposed to be. I just like the jumping back and forth and shooting the people was fun.
Yep. This was my favorite part in the whole game because I just loved jumping back and forth to do the slow motion. I've also never seen it, so I'm with Parrot, but I knew what it was. So
I host a podcast with you guys.
It's not a movie podcast, Connor. There's a reason.
Connor, I would just shut this podcast down until they watch The Matrix. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Dude, I had to watch that movie like 30 times in college for different papers. I still love it.
It's a very good movie. The first one. We can argue about the sequels later.
Yeah, I haven't watched those. I presume they don't exist.
The first movie is excellent. And funny enough, we've actually gone, what are we going now? We're almost an hour here. And somehow we haven't mentioned the main villain of this game. Well, barely. And that's the Panther King.
Oh, yeah.
Why is he after Conker? Well, a very simple reason. You see, his table has lost its table leg. And the squirrel of Conker is the perfect height to replace that table leg. So his milk stops falling off the table.
I cracked up at that whole little sequence. That was like the one time, one of my biggest complaints, especially in the last half of the game, was how long they would make the dialogue, and they're just like not really have a joke to make, but they'd keep adding padding to the dialogue. That was my one exception, was all of those sequences where you're watching the Panther King and his scientists do stuff.
I did love
this is freaking hilarious to me.
Yeah, the German scientist was hilarious. Just like he hated him. He's like, go with the duct tape. I'll get you the duct tape.
It felt like a
Did you have any chocolate out the window?
Skit.
But yeah, it's pretty great. Now, the reason why I mentioned this here is you finally, you get the robbery done, but then you come face to face with the Panther King, and you think, oh, you're gonna have this big epic boss confrontation with the Panther King, but no, there's an alien, and you end up in space. Yeah. So,
why are we in space? Oh, right, that was me who brought us into space. I have no legs.
a very subversion of expectations there. But yes, you end up in space. You're fighting an alien. The Panther King's dead. Your girlfriend's dead. Barry's dead. Which, by the way, that's a huge plot point in the canceled second game. Is her being brought back to life, or trying to be brought back to life. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, you're fighting this alien now, and it basically becomes the Super Mario 64 boss fight in some ways. This final boss fight. Also, another, I think, if you don't know what to do, very frustrating boss fight.
Yes, as I discovered. I'm going to be honest. From the Matrix parody, from right before that, and then to the end of the game, dude, I was so zoned out and ready to be done. First off, as soon as we got out of war, I made a mistake of going, oh, I remember where that bridge to the last part is. I will go there manually. No, it's blocked off. You need to go into the broken windmill, drop down, then go through a little path there. All right. That's fine. And the Matrix parody is like, all right, this is just like the exact scene, but worse. And so, all right, I'm surprisingly, I guess, not that big of a fan of that part. And then we got to the boss fight here. So I was like half paying attention, and it was like 2 a.m. at night, and I was just like, why is this still going? I could not figure out for like 20 minutes that I just had to walk behind the stupid alien after I punched him with the combo and just Super Mario 64, which granted I thought was excellent that they did a Super Mario 64 parody with that boss fight. That was excellent. But I spent 20 minutes slowly punching him with the combo over and over again, stun locking him, noticing that he went back just a little bit every time I did it until he was up to the wall. And then I realized, oh, he doesn't go through the airlock unless I actually pick him up and throw him. And I didn't know how to do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's patience. I think if I was you, I would have just looked it up after like 2 minutes, but that's just me, I guess.
That is what I did.
I didn't. I liked this part. I thought it was fun. I didn't have any issues with this part. It's
I thought it was.
I like the combat in it, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was fun too. I think my only issue with it was I found so you have to do it 3 times. You have to like knock him out, throw him, knock him out, throw him, knock him out, third. And the third time, for whatever reason, he just got really finicky to get land that final shot on him.
Yep.
That was my biggest issue with it. But I think that one's just a bit luck. And as soon as you do manage to get the timing right and land that third shot, then it's easy. You just chuck him out for a third time.
I feel like too when you chuck him, it has to be perfect sometimes in the hole, or he will not go out. Because I had a couple times where he would not bounce out.
I didn't have that problem because I'm an Elite Gamer 360 no scoping, but getting the combos off on him on the third got harder every time. Even if I got the first hit, I would just get random combo drops, and it just wouldn't. It was like 1, 2, and then it would just stop. And then like, do I have to hit him a certain number of times? Nope, it just was failing, just dropping my combos on me. But it was creative.
Yeah, speaking of creative, then you get the ending, basically where it's still not dead. It's about to kill Conker, but Conker's had enough of this shit, and he's like, "Yo, game devs, can we wrap this up? Like, I'm tired of this."
Oh yeah, it just happened that the game has a hard freeze, hard locks, and then he takes advantage of that. I thought that was hilarious.
But yeah, he's just like, "I'm done with this. Can you guys like help me out here? Like, give me something to kill this thing. Let me win the day. I'm done." And so they do.
We got another the great Matrix reference to me was them pulling out the weapon rack there.
Yes, yeah, you get that weapon rack. You can pick off what he wants. Samurai slashes him in half, and yeah, he's dead. He saved the day, and you kind of get this really. I love the ending of this. This really sad, kind of somber ending where he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm king, but I've lost everything. My girlfriend's dead. I hate all these people around me. I have all this money, but I have nothing to spend it on, and you never really know what you had until it's gone." It just kind of ends there. It's like, oh fuck, it's actually really sad.
And it ends back at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ends with him getting pissed again, and that's it. Like it's just it's shockingly a depressing ending, but it's perfect for this game.
I was really mad at him though, because he's just like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to ask about Barry, even though I could have just had them bring her back." Oh, like, you idiot. Of course.
I'm still laughing over how she just like gets shot, and then he completely just it's like not just him, but like the entire game is like, and then she gets shot, and it's dramatic, and then the writers just kind of like forget about it for 20 minutes, and then it felt like the entire game and you as the player were all having that, oh yeah, the person that person's dead, right? Whoops, forgot about something. Just felt like it was all in sync.
Rest in peace, Barry. I didn't forget. I was thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah, well, that's why the second, like I said, in the canceled second game, the big plot point was reviving Barry, and then he ends up meeting another girl, and there's some girl drama with that. But that's a whole nother story for another day that'll never happen, because all we got after this was young Conker.
The HoloLens game.
Who knows what we can say about will never happen with gaming these days? It was like,
that's true.
We got Psychonauts 2. That happened.
Yeah,
we got other stuff that should have never happened.
I honestly think that there could be a new Conker one day that I think would be a lot better than this one.
I think there's a blueprint here for something pretty fantastic. And I think if you took that, modernized it, you kind of toned down some of it, but then you still kind of go crazy with the movie references and have fun with it. I think you'd be cooking a really
Yeah.
delicious stew.
Yeah, because to me, I think the more creative stuff and the movie references. I think if you just built it all around that, you don't need 3 hours of fart jokes. I mean, I think we could do without all that, and it could just be a lot better.
Or the
Yeah.
completely egregious violence.
Yes.
Certain violent parts. I was just like, okay, we didn't need to kill these cows here. That was unnecessary.
I liked how the cows talked, so I don't know, it was funny to me. I do have a final question for you guys, but before we get there, I guess, we're kind of at the end here in terms of the story and the things. So did you guys have anything else you wanted to mention first? Did I forget something? Was there anything you really wanted to bring up?
I think we kind of covered everything. I really liked the self-referential stuff, like we're in a video game thing, like the ending especially. But there were other points that happened, and then just double down on like the context-sensitive mechanic was really clever idea, especially for this time.
I thought that was
I think it's really
hilarious.
cool. Like, because I like when it plays into the fact that it's a video game and it's a cartoon, because like he could just pull out whatever he needs at any time when he's on this button. I just think that is really fun.
And it just over time, how many games after that would make a big deal about, oh, we have this context sensitive feature, like Halo when it added assassinations. It's like, oh, we have context sensitive assassinations. And that's just been such an industry like marketing point for so many years that just made that joke even funnier.
Yeah, I think we
Perfect.
pretty much covered everything for me.
My
Awesome.
memories of this game are leaking as we speak.
And you
Awesome.
just
So-
finished it.
yeah, no doubt. You finished it before all of us. We all were
I'll
really
try to
early on
flush 'em
this
out.
one. Just flush them out like the great mighty poo. Okay, so yeah, I just final question for you guys. What was your favorite moment, boss fight, whatever it is? Like, what's your biggest takeaway from this game? Start with you, Parrot.
I honestly think after all of it, I think it is either the bat flying section where you're throwing the villagers into the machine, or the part that everybody hates but us, where you're leaving and jumping over the lasers and dodging the bullets. That was my favorite part. My two favorite parts.
Brave answer, Connor.
I would say my favorite is literally that start there with Frankie. Or not Frankie. Frankie's the pitchfork. Birdie. That start there with Birdie was just my favorite part.
Bird. He also, by the way, appeared in the canceled sequel. But
Yep,
alas,
I would hope so.
He kind of helps you at the beginning and then fucks off again. Same thing.
I do have an important question for you guys. Did you make sure to go back to Birdie when you found yourself in that little valley again and give him a beer?
Oh
No.
yes, not this time, but I have done that. Yeah.
Yes, very important. Make sure to give him that one last beer before the game ends.
I did not.
Oh, shame on you.
I did not either. I hated him, so I did not go back.
Wow.
Biff. Yeah, terrible. Straw Hat, your favorite part?
Definitely the Matrix part. That was my favorite with the guns. And also I did like the bat section as well. And I just really liked all the boss fights. So those would have been my highlights.
Yeah, I'm going to be a basic bitch and say the Great Mighty Pooh for sure. But all the boss fights in general.
What?
are just
No.
Fantastic. I know, right? Shocking. But yeah, I agree with Straw Hat. I think the boss fights in this game are exceptional, especially when you compare them to other Rare games where they're not the best, I would say, for sure. I think this game managed to really nail that aspect of it. It was something that separated itself from Banjo and Kazooie. So I thought
It will
that was
never
cool.
beat my memories of the Banjo-Tooie boss fights.
Yeah, okay.
Memories remain undefeated for sure.
Correct.
But yeah, well, no, thanks for having me on, you guys, and letting me steer this one. And I'll pass it back to you, Straw Hat. But it was great talking about this game.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. And this, like I said, we pretty much wanted to do. We had you on for DK64. You missed Banjo, but we pretty much covered that one, the original Banjo, pretty quickly. I will say, if we continue our rare games, I would like to play this at some point. Star Fox Adventure, the GameCube game, which I know gets a lot of heat because it's not really a Star Fox game, but I do own it, and I've never finished it when I had it before. So I want to play that at some point. So maybe we can continue our rare games. Maybe we'll have to do a top 10 rare games episode sometime, which I'm sure Addi would like to be a part of since he is a big Rare fan as well.
Absolutely, and I do think if you're doing that, you should take a look at Jet Force Gemini, and which is a great game, and also, or did you do that one already?
No, I was gonna say we have to do Grab by the Ghoulies because I always.
Yeah, I
wanted
was
to
gonna
play that
say.
game.
Yeah, I was gonna say Grab by the Ghoulies too. I think that game, it gets a bad rap because it's what nobody really expected or wanted from Rare, but it was clear when they were transitioning at this point, and I think it was a lot of fun. So I would do that game too for sure.
My experience with Grab by the Ghoulies is in Banjo Nuts and Bolts. When that's one of the discs on one of the grounds in one of the worlds.
we could skip that one.
We are
Nope,
not
that's my
talking
favorite.
about.
Not
We are
skipping that
not
one.
talking about Banjo.
Not
Nuts
skipping
and
that
Bolts.
one.
End this episode right now, please.
You might as well just kick me off all these Rare episodes from here on out.
The top 10 Rare is going to be number 1 Nuts and Bolts, and everyone's going to cry.
No, Connor's gonna put Banjo Tooie, even though nobody ever
Banjo
finished it
Tooie,
in
and then
history.
Nuts and Bolts, and then whatever you guys want. I don't care.
Ouch. But anyway, before we go, well, actually, after we go, we also have a special treat for you guys. If you want to stay and listen, now you don't have to listen, but you would miss out on some great opera singing by Addi and Connor. Both.
I'm
And
so sorry in advance.
If anyone I know in real life happens to be here, I'm sorry, and I would ask that you just stop here.
No, it's really beautiful. I had a wonderful time mixing this beautiful remix for everybody to listen to.
So yes, please listen to that. It'll be at the end of the episode instead of our closeout song. We'll close out with that. And so yeah, thanks for joining us, Addi. I know you're, like I said, the biggest Conker fan I know. And we finally got the episode. You've been wanting this one since we started the Collectathon Club, so we finally
It was a
got
dream
there.
come true for me.
Because I don't think Ed's ever playing Conker, is he? Are you getting a deep dive with him anytime soon?
Hell no. And to be honest, I wouldn't want him to. Hi, Ed.
Ed has a kid now, so he's got to live through the poo section of the game.
That's true. But with that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Sayonara.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Me. I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tish comes from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little twat?
Yeah. Ho 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 ho. Yeah. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. He 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 he. Oh.
You really think you'll survive in here? You don't seem to know which creek you're in. Sweet corn is the only thing that makes it through my rear. How do you think I keep this lovely grin? Have some more caviar.
Raw. Oh ho ho ho. Blah. Ho 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 ho. He 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 he.
Now I'm really getting rather mad. You're like a wiggly, tingly, shitty little tag knot. When I knock you out with all my bab, I'm going to take your head and ram it up my butt.
Your butt?
My butt.
Your butt?
I said my butt. My butt.
Ugh.
My butt.
Roar. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Ho 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 ho. Hooah. Hee 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 hee.